Previously on Stay in Your Lane.
The reality, I think, is if you are helping your teams and all the team members be successful, ultimately you will be successful.
Yeah, that's a result.
Yeah, as a result. And the comment that surround yourself with smarter people. Not only smarter people, but people who have skills that complement, or supplement yours. The key is build the strength, and if you do that, you're not gonna have a bunch of mini me's running around. You'll have a very diverse looking organization, and both culturally, both from an experience standpoint.
Welcome back, everyone, to Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host today, John Mahle, brought to you by Triple T Transport. Bringing back Paul Newbourne, LP Consulting, Joe Lombardo, Iggy Avenue. Enjoy both of these gentlemen very, very much. I love the wisdom. If you're looking for tribal wisdom in the transportation industry, look no further. I have them both here at the same time. So, welcome, Paul. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. It's my pleasure. I think what I'd like to discuss today and get your thoughts on, we've got so much coming at us from a technology perspective everywhere we look in the industry. You see everyone's talking about API for the past year, 2 years. And API is not new technology. I think we need to recognize and take a step back and say, this is not new. It's blown up, I would say, as of late, because I think the ability to monitor and censor and track all of these details that we'd like to throughout most of the industry has gotten cheap enough that it's now able to bring us more value. So I would love to hear both of your perspectives on the impact that we see happen in technology and where we're going, 3 and 5 years down the road. So, who would like to start?
Go ahead, Joe.
Refer to Paul.
Okay. So technology, from my experience and perspective, is one of the tools in the toolbox. To me, there are always 5 core fundamental things to fall back on. It starts with people, right people in the right roles doing the right things. It follows with process, which are structured and disciplined processes to allow for consistency of execution. Technology, which should be focused primarily on enabling effective process execution, because whether it's an information process or an operational process, technology can certainly aid in both the quantity and quality of the information that's used to make decisions and execute. So following technology, you have metrics, and you have to measure process efficiency and effectiveness as well as the results that you're shooting for. And then to tie all that together, you're looking at continuous improvement, right? Okay, you're doing well, that's great, but there's always someone scratching at the door. So you need to constantly be looking, what can I do different? What can I do better? And so when you go back to the technology piece, it's just one component. And if you solely focus on technology, in my experience, I think you'll miss the boat. And particularly when you think about process, I've been parts of organizations in the past where we're gonna put a new TMS in, and they don't bother to revisit the processes that they're associated with, and so they just highly automate an inefficient process. Well, that doesn't make you any better; just makes you the same, it's faster, right? So I think that the first thing with technology is you have to look at where do you want to apply it, why do you want to apply it, and what are the expectations from it, and then revisit the process piece to make sure that that technology will enable those processes to get you the results that will hopefully result in a better outcome from where you currently are. There are all kinds of technology out there today, right? From simply doing a Zoom type call where AI transcribes the call for you, right? And sends you an outline of what was talked about. That's productive from the standpoint that it reduces the amount of time to assemble that, but it will still require a person to go through and make sure that everything relevant and all the key points are accurately and articulated uh, in the summary. You have TMS systems, you have WMS systems, you have inventory management systems. I mean, they're all over. Then, of course, you have the connectivity issue, the tracking technology. I think it all comes down for me is what's the organization's strategy and what's the role of technology in the strategy? And as you look at that business strategy and how you want to use technology to help you execute it, I think you can then begin to pick and choose the technology components that will help get you to where you want to go. Um, don't necessarily advocate putting technology in for technology's sake, but certainly there are lots of good technology out there that can help improve the effectiveness of an organization. The other thing to think about with technology is that everyone has access to it now, particularly with SaaS models. And so your competitors are probably doing things with technology. Your customers are probably doing things, your suppliers, depending on where you sit in the supply chain. And certainly trying to maintain and understand a dialogue with those folks so that you can create complementary technology as much as possible to get the most out of it. Because at the end of the day, technology accelerates the pace of how you process things and can certainly execute activities. But, and John, you and I were talking about this the other day, the technology can't necessarily always solve a problem. For that, you need people. And certainly it can accelerate the pace of things, it can improve the accuracy of information exchange. But if a truck doesn't show up on time, I think technology then begins to get limited, right? It can tell you, well, your truck's late, your truck's delayed. It may or may not be able to tell you the reason why, but it may not be able to get that truck started again. For that, you need to rely on people. So, to your comment about, well, some people would like technology to do everything, I think it can do a lot. I don't think it can do everything. Lots of hype about AI. There's things that AI I think will be very good at, and I think companies prudently should look at how can I use AI applications in my business to help me become more effective, more efficient. I don't know that we're going to be living in the world of self-aware technology for a while, and so I think you've got to be prudent about your application of it.
Wow. Paul, you can come back on anytime. I'm go ahead and say that. Joe, what would you like to throw in there?
Well, I like one of Paul's comments about automating an inefficient process. I go back to days as a shipper, and we were I think Nestle was a pretty early adopter of putting a TMS in, and we put a TMS in, a company based in Wisconsin, and we made so much changes to it. They did so much customization for us that in a couple of years we couldn't take any updates from them because we changed the system so much. So eventually we had to leave that system and go to another one. And did we learn our lesson? No, we tried the same thing again. It wasn't until we got to SAP where the Germans said, "No, this you don't change. This is the system. You have your processes work with the system." Because I like that comment. And again, I'm a big believer in people. People are, of the five items that Paul mentioned, I think you mentioned people first. So I think you always got to put people first. And metrics is very important, as Paul said. A lot of times we have differing metrics with a supplier, with a carrier, with a customer, with a third party. I mean, I remember going into meetings. This was probably back in the late '80s, early '90s, and I go in with my report card and say, God, we're doing great. And then the receiver would come out, Fleming Foods in this case. And he put down his report card and say, yeah, you guys suck. So where's the disconnect? It's two different. We were looking at things differently. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that Paul said.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.